Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to the September 20th, 2023 Charleston County Historic Preservation Commission meeting. If you would please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This meeting has been noticed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. This commission acts in review and recommending capacity for designations and removal of historic properties and districts. The commission also reviews proposed National Register of Historic Places nominations. The commission has final decision-making authority on certificates of historic appropriateness. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Melanie Millar. I am the chair of the commission. To my left, I have Anna Johnson, Donna Gardner, and Pat Jones. To my right, I have Tisha Smalls-Brown and English Purcell. Also seated to my right, I have Commission Attorney Mark Bell. And seated to my left, I have Joel Evans, Director of Zoning and Planning. Joel, would you please introduce your staff?
Sure. Andrea Melisic, Deputy Director of the Zoning and Planning. Emily Piggott, who will be presenting the cases, and Marcia Miller, who will be taking the minutes and the votes. Yeah.
All right, thank you. I would like to remind you that in order to get a good recording of the meeting for the minutes, please speak loudly and clearly into your microphones. The next agenda is the approval of the minutes from the August 16th, 2023 meeting. Do I have a motion and a second?
Motion to approve.
Second? Thank you. Staff, would you please call roll?
Chair Millar,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Smalls-Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner, one abstain, Commissioner Purcell,
Aye.
ayes have it.
Thank you. The next agenda item is HIST 08-23-00092, a request to designate Backman Seafood as a historic property. Emily, would you please discuss?
Thank you very much. As stated, this is a request to designate Backman Seafood located at TMS 331-05-00013, also known as 1851 and 1855 Saul Agree Road, as a historic property on the Charleston County Historic Designation List. Backman Seafood was established on Saul Agree Road in 1961 by Thomas and Susie Backman. They employed many local Saul Agree residents. Thomas and Susie Backman were also instrumental in organizing the oyster pickers, getting legal counsel, and applying and obtaining permits for the oyster pickers to continue their work. Fundraisers and community meetings have also been held at the property over the years. After Thomas Backman passed away, only 3 years after starting the business, Susie and her children continued on. Currently, damage from storms and the decline in the shrimping industry has significantly impacted the business. The Saul Agree Community Plan was adopted in March of 2018 by County Council, and it highlights Saul Agree's history, assets, and opportunities, as well as identifies strategies that allow the community to prosper as an area deeply rooted in Gullah Geechee culture. Backman Seafood was noted as a community asset in this plan, as well as a noteworthy example of thriving water-dependent uses in the Saul Agree community. This is the location of the subject property when looking at the county as a whole. The subject property is split between Charleston County and the city of Folly Beach. The county portion of the property is zoned commercial within the Saul Agree Overlay Zoning District and contains 2 commercial structures, along with boats and storage associated with the shrimping business. The property is bounded by the King Flats Creek to the south. To the east, it's also zoned commercial in the Sol Legre Overlay Zoning District and contains a vacant commercial building. Properties to the west and north are zoned residential within the Sol Legre Overlay Zoning District and contain either marshland or single-family dwelling units. The subject property is within the AE 11 and VE flood zones. Here's an aerial view of the subject property. These are photos of the subject property. And these are also photos of neighboring properties. In the photo on the right, you can see one of the shrimping boats in the distance. These are the approval criteria to designate a property as historic at the county level. In order for an application to be approved, one or more of these criteria must be met. The applicant has stated they believe the following 3 criteria have been met. Number 1, has significant inherent character, interest, history, or value as a part of the rural county or heritage of the county, state, or nation. Number 3, is associated with a person or persons who contributed significantly to the culture and development of the county, state, or nation. And number 9, represents an established and familiar visual feature of the neighborhood or community. And the applicant has provided responses to all of those criteria. Staff recommends approval since the application meets approval criteria 1, 3, and 9. And this meeting was noticed as required. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Emily. Appreciate your comprehensive report. Are there any questions for staff from the commission members at this time? Okay. Public comment? Do we have any public comment today
On this one?
on this particular?
Did we get anybody? Nobody?
No.
Nobody signed? We'll get the sign-in sheet. signed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
This might be the applicant.
Hi, Madam
Hi.
Chairman.
Yes, ma'am,
I'm
sir.
Bruce Berlinski. I represent Reginald Backman, one of the heirs in this property. I'm not here to argue the merits of whether this should be designated historic or not, because certainly the Backman family has contributed significantly to the community, especially the Sol Legre community. But my client is asking me to request that this matter be deferred at this time. He has contacted me 4, 5, 6 months ago. This is still heirs property. He is opposed to anything being done at this point in time. I have, if I can approach, some printouts. I've got some of the older deeds, along with a history of what my title examiner found with regard to, there has been some inter-family deeds and transactions, but it doesn't include all of them. About 9 people have signed deeds all into ABC Trust, which I think is controlled by Mr. Sammy. But, and at the top, it designates what each page is. But there are equal number, if not more, who are not part of ABC Trust. And because I have been hired at this point to look at bringing a quiet title action, we think that the matter ought to be deferred till we know who all the owners of the property are and whether they all want this done or not done, or where at least the people I represent, because I think Mr. Sammy Backman's here, and I know he's in favor of it, and from what I hear, I think he is.
This, Mr. Berlin.
Mr. Berlinski, can you tell us again who it is that you represent?
Reginald Backman.
Reginald Backman. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. If y'all have any questions,
Okay.
more than happy to answer them.
Is there anyone else?
Yes, there is. Sammy
I
Backman.
have a question.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Valinsky. So you said you represent.
Pat, is your speaker on?
Oh, sorry. Can y'all hear me now?
Press the button.
Button. Green should be green. Just take it, there you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. You represent one of the Batman family, you said? Family members?
Reginald, who is
Okay.
one of the children of Susie Backman and Mr. Sammy Backman, who is, I think, ADC Trust. He's one of the 6 children also.
Okay, 6, he's one of the 6. So
Of Susie. My title examiner has found somewhere between 20 and 30 people who have an interest, maybe more because we haven't completed the investigation. This is just on what's on the public record at the Register of Deeds office. And
Well, I guess I'm trying to understand how many children are they that we should be concerned about?
well, again,
And so
I
you
think
mentioned
there's
6.
I think there's somewhere between 20 to 35 or 40 people that have an interest in this property.
Are you talking about children?
Well, children, grandchildren, because no estates have been probated since going back to Miss Leah Backman, who passed away, I believe she passed away in 1951. I'm not positive. Might have been earlier than that.
And Leah
But-
Batman, who's that?
She's the person who had title to this property initially. And she had some children, and I still haven't determined yet if, I don't think Susie Backman, who's, goes back to Leah through her husband Thomas, who you heard passed away 3 years after starting the business. I'm just saying it's a mess right now. And like I said, I'm just getting started in this. And I think I've been doing heirs property litigation for 41 years, and this is going to be one of the more complex ones I've handled in 41 years.
Okay, thank you.
And we're not saying don't do it or do it. We're just, my client is asking that it be deferred until we can determine who all the owners are and get an order from Judge Scarborough to see who all has an interest and what their percentage interest is. Because I don't know what ADC Trust's percentage interest is. I know they've gotten deeds from 9 other family members, but again, I don't know what those 9 people's interests are. It could be 0.237, it could be 1.66, it could be 10. I just haven't gotten far enough along yet, and you know, we didn't even know this was happening. Mr. Reginald hired me, like I said, about 4, 5, 6 months ago to start this process, and it was an acquaintance of his from high school that saw the notice in the paper, and that's how we even knew to appear today. So again, I'm not saying the merits are good or bad for this. It's just we feel like we need to finish the quiet title action to see really what interest ADC Group Trust has in this, and what the family wants to do with the property.
Okay.
I mean,
thank
I
you.
know what Mr. Sammy wants to do, and I know what Mr. Reginald wants to do, but they're only 2 of, like I said, somewhere between 25 and probably 35 people.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
We don't have Mr. Batman signed up to speak?
Yes, we
We
do.
do.
We do?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question before you sit down, sir. Mr. Berlinski, I have a couple questions for you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
In your professional opinion, your expertise, what amount of time do you believe you might need to defer this? A month, 2 months? What are we talking about here?
I think it's going to be a lot longer. Most of the quiet title actions I bring that have this many heirs takes anywhere from 6 to 12 months, depending on whether other family members hire lawyers and we can all work together. A lot of it depends on Judge Scarborough's backlog and how quick he can get us in and out of court. I know at this point, we're in September, and the last thing I scheduled with him, he's looking at end of January, beginning of February of next year.
And am I correct to assume that this would affect development on this property, obviously, if the designation is impacted, as we all know as board members, that does restrict what can and cannot be as far as design? Is that your
That's correct,
mindset?
and that's why,
So I would just remind the board members that, that is a process that we've been working through, and that I understand the need to possibly, have possibly put this off so that we can, get to maybe a little clearer understanding of who owns this property. I think we're all in agreement that it is definitely a designation historically, but I just would like to make sure that everyone has that mindset before we move forward. Yes, ma'am.
As a board, I think we should know how many people are involved in this. When you said 20 to 35 to 40, that's a wide range. Could you provide an exact number of people?
well, the handout I gave to Chairman Millar has about 30 people, and that's what's on the public record that we can find. Again, I haven't gotten to the point to determine if those are the only people that are involved. If the information that's on the public record, some of it is just indeed recitals, and that's based on what the family member that went to that lawyer told them, that may not necessarily be correct, because again, no estates have been, well, I say no, there have been a few estates probated, but I believe it's only like somewhere between 3 and 5 out of at least 8 deceased people right now.
Madam Chair.
And again, it's going back to the 50s, so I really don't know.
Thank you. Ms. Chairman, Madam Chairman, would you please provide all of us with a copy of the information?
It's just one copy, so
well, later
we'll
on, it
pass
can
it
be
on down.
emailed
Yes,
to us.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Johnson.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I should have had more copies with me.
Yes, you said that. That would be good the next time.
It's got
Yeah.
you'll see it quite a few.
Yeah, we need to get a copy of this.
Does anyone have any other question or discussion from Mr. Berlinski before we have our next person that would like to speak? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll let you go ahead.
Sammy Backman.
Good afternoon. My name is Sammy Backman. I submitted the application for the historical preservation of this property. I think there's a bit of misinformation that's been given to you. The property was originally owned by Leah Backman, who had 2 children. One had 2 kids, one had 7. In 1982, we purchased half interest in the property from the family member or the family members that are left of the person that had 2 kids. In 2007, ADC Group Trust, which I'm the trustee of, purchased the other half from the other brother who had 7 kids. So Leah Backman heirs are out of it. The 40 people that he's talking about, I'm sure, is included in that. As it stands now, ADC Group Trust owns half of it, and the first half that was purchased ended up being in the estate of Susie Backman, which is 6 people. I have 1 sister left, 1 brother, which is Reginald, who brought this suit. He has not participated in anything with this company probably in the last 30 years. And I just found out from him in a conversation last week that he was against it. Now, what he has been doing is trying to lobby other people that are heirs of my brothers that have passed to agree with him, and I've had conversations with my who's in touch with other family members, and that 40 people that he is talking about is not the case. We have no intentions of opening a seafood market again, but we feel that the business has been in the community and a part of the community since 1961. At one point, we had at least 30 people out of the community employed. We feel that it's important if we could do some type of restoration and maintain it rather than sell it, which is what Reginald has in mind. I felt like since the process has been started, I would continue with it. I did not expect to have someone come here to try to block it today, but I'm not surprised. I'm really trying to grasp why he does not want our parents' legacy to continue. But I would ask if the process can continue, I hope that it can not be delayed another year like they intend. And I don't feel that he'll have the majority of people on his side.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Is there any questions for this gentleman?
Good afternoon. You indicated that you said you are the president of the trust. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm the trustee, yes.
Did you bring anything with you today to show that ADC is the primary owner of this property?
No, I didn't,
As
because
the-
I didn't expect to.
Okay.
I submitted that when I submitted the application.
Okay.
That was part of the application process.
Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me, at this point, I would like Mr. Bell to make a comment. I think that's pertinent.
And Commission members, I'd like you all to know that the ownership of the property is not a question that this body can determine. That would have to be determined by the master in equity. And therefore, if you feel that it is important for you to defer this matter until you have clarity on that, you can do so. But you are not to determine who does or who does not own the property.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any other question for Mr. This is Mr.
Sammy
Backman?
Backman, yeah.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Well, at this point, if there's no other public comment, this case is now closed to public comment. Before discussion, is there a motion and a second from commission?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd move for deferment until we could clarify or get better clarity on the ownership.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Is there a second on that motion? There's been a motion and a second has been made for deferment. Staff, is that a time frame that you could discuss at this point?
Normally, our deferrals are for a set amount of time, so, I mean, how would we,
And Commission members, I believe in this case, the deferment was until the title has been established by the court, so it's really difficult for us to say exactly what time. And so I believe it's more appropriate if the applicant can come back whenever all the issues with the master in equity have been resolved, whether that's shortly or some longer date.
I believe this is a very important designation, in my opinion, and that's primarily what we're here for. And I believe we should give a time period and I understand, Mr. Berlinski, that is very involved, but I think we should at least have a time period of maybe 3 months and then we address this again to see where we are at this point. I expect some movement, and I understand that the wheel of justice moves slowly, especially with heirs property. But that's just my recommendation. Do I need any kind of a motion to put that number into play of 3 months?
Well,
I mean, I don't know how we move forward with this part of it.
well, Madam
Yes,
Chair, I
ma'am.
was just thinking, if Mr. Batman is able to provide us with clarity and proof, wouldn't he be able to just contact us and we can go from there, or you, because we set a time for we just said 3 months, right, 90 days?
Yes, ma'am. But I understand what you're saying.
I mean-
I would like Mr. maybe Bell to answer your question.
If he's able to clarify that before 90 days, if he has proof of what we need to know about ownership, I'd like for us to come back earlier, but I don't want us to just be waiting and then, for 90 days.
Commissioner members, and it sounds like Ms. Johnson is requesting you guys just accept that the applicant can come back whenever he has the final answer from either the master in equity or his own documents. And if staff can accommodate that, then that's up to the board if that's how you'd like to keep the motion.
That's how I'd like to keep the motion.
And does there need to be a second to that specific? It's already been a second, okay. All right, my understanding is that there has been a motion that we have a deferment until ownership can be proven either through Sammy Backman or Mr. Berlinski. Exponentially, we'd hope that it would be sooner than later, but we will allow the process to unfold, I guess, with those standards in place. Am I correct? Okay.
Well, I just want to be clear now. So if Mr. Batman, Sammy Batman, has the proof that we need to show the ownership, why do we have to hear from Mr. Berlinski?
No, I
if he
said-
has that proof? Because you said one or the other, I
Yes,
think.
ma'am. I just say whoever could make proof first. I mean, obviously, Mr. Backman has the proof. He could do that quickly.
Oh,
But
first,
obviously,
okay.
Mr. Berlinski's going to take quite a while.
Okay,
So,
right.
yes, ma'am.
Commissioner members, I'll remind you that unfortunately, the ownership of the property is not for you guys to decide. Mr. Belinsky has stated that his client does have an ownership interest in this property. It'll be up to the master in equity to determine ultimately who has ownership, which is why we are contemplating waiting until that matter is resolved in its entirety.
Okay.
Yes, sir, that's understood. Thank you. Okay, so a motion has been made and seconded for a deferment, and the basis of it has been addressed. I would ask for a vote now, please.
Okay. Chair Millard,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Smalls Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner,
Aye.
Commissioner Purcell.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Okay. All right. County Council will hear this request.
No, they won't.
Oh, they will not?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the final. We
This
just,
is yeah, deferral, yes.
okay, the deferral would move forward then, and we'll, I guess, when it does take place, it will be brought up on the agenda at that particular meeting.
Right, when they come back, if this board moves it forward, that's when county council will see
Okay.
the
But
request.
for right now, we're in a deferment
Right.
stance. Thank you for your time. Okay, the next agenda item is HIST-08-23-00097, a request for a certificate of historic appropriateness. Emily, hold on just a moment, please. Are we okay to move forward?
Yep.
Okay, pardon me. All right, Emily, if you would please discuss.
Thank you very much. This request is a certificate of historic appropriateness for site improvements, including a new parking area and buffer planting on TMS 098-00-00117, 5213 Highway 174, in order to establish Highway 174 Quick Stop. This property is within 300 feet of the National Register listed site, the Wilkinson Bonnow House. In September of 2022, the subject property received zoning permit approval to repair the roof on an existing commercial structure. In May of this year, a zoning permit was issued for the removal of a diseased and dying oak tree. In August of this year, a conditional site plan approval was granted for the Highway 174 Quick Stop convenience store. The applicant has described that there will be no alterations made to the existing commercial building. Site improvements will be made to bring the property into compliance with our zoning ordinance, and these include installing a gravel parking area and supplementing the existing buffer vegetation. This is the location of the property when looking at the county overall. The subject property is within 300 feet of the National Register listed site, the Wilkinson Bonnow House, which is significant for its Greek Revival architecture, as well as being the first house that was built in the summer planters village of Wilkinsonville, which was established in 1830 by William Wilkinson. The subject property is zoned commercial within the Parkers Ferry Overlay Zoning District and contains a commercial building. Surrounding properties to the west, south, and east are zoned residential within the Parkers Ferry Overlay Zoning District and contain residential uses or are undeveloped. The property to the north across Highway 174 is zoned commercial within the Parkers Ferry Overlay and contains a manufactured housing unit. The subject property is in the A and X flood zones. Here's an aerial view of the property. You can see the existing commercial building towards the front. Additionally, you can see the Wilkinson Bonnow House around the bend in Highway 174. Here are photos of the subject property and neighboring properties. This is the site plan showing the existing commercial building to remain, along with the parking lot improvements. This is the landscape plan, which shows how the applicant will supplement the existing vegetation for buffering purposes. The applicant did provide responses to all of the applicable approval criteria, and based on the applicant's responses, the approval criteria have been satisfied as applicable, therefore staff recommends approval. We did receive one letter in opposition to this request, as well as another letter that had questions regarding their request, and we did notice as required. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. All right, we appreciate your comprehensive report. Any questions for staff from the commission members before we have public input? Hearing none, I will ask Mr. Evans to call the speakers.
Jonathan Hamilton.
Hello, Jonathan Hamilton. I actually the owner of the property, and it was a convenience store / barber shop for forever. And we are not making any changes or anything to what's there. We just gonna reopen the convenience store so that in the area, the people in the public can have something, to go to. Because from the convenience store where it's located, the only other stores, either Hollywood, all the way to Ediston Beach, or Jacksonboro, and we don't have nothing in the area, and so we were trying to update to try to get something going.
Sir, would you mind giving us your address?
My home address?
Yes, sir.
8389 Laurie Road, Adams Run.
Okay, and you say you are going to be running that store?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Okay. Anyone have any questions for the person speaking? Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry. So it's not being used as a store now. It's been closed, and you're wanting to reopen it.
Yes. When the last operation of a store, we owned it at that time also. But my mother passed away, and it was closed down for a while, and now we're redoing it to, open the business back.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
I want to ask them a
Ms.
question.
Johnson?
How long has the store been closed?
I would imagine about 10 years, somewhere in there. I don't have the exact date.
Okay,
but-
all right. I was
Yes.
just wondering if it was, recently, a couple of years, but 10 years? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you want to continue on with the same kind of operation that y'all had before?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Any
Thank you.
other, any
Thank
other
you.
questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Deborah Girardeau. Okay.
Okay, this case is now closed to public comment. Before discussion, is there a motion and a second from commission?
I'd move.
That was pretty quick. Okay, motion to move and a second. Okay. Any other discussion at this time? I think we can make a vote at this point. All right, staff?
Chair Millar,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Smalls Brown, Commissioner Gardner,
Aye.
Commissioner Purcell.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Good luck, sir. You're definitely doing something that is a positive for that community, and I commend you for that. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, this is the final decision of the Historic Preservation Commission. If any person with a substantial interest in the decision of this Historic Preservation Commission chooses to appeal the decision, they may do so to the Circuit Court of Charleston County. Such appeal shall be filed within 30 calendar days after today's date. Thank you, sir.
Get with Emily, and she'll walk you through finishing up the site plan review process and getting a permit. Okay? All right.
Okay.
Sounds good. Congratulations, sir.
Congratulations. The next agenda item is HIST-08-23-00095, a request for a certificate of historic appropriateness. Staff review. Emily, please discuss.
Thank you. So this request is for the demolition of a horse barn and conservatory at TMS 361-00-000-001 Magnolia Plantation and Gardens, which is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Subject property is currently in site plan review for the demolition of the conservatory and horse barn, along with the horse barn reconstruction and carriage house improvements. Recently, the property received approval for a restroom replacement building and reconstruction of the reptile house. The applicant has described that they are seeking to demolish an existing horse barn that has been damaged beyond repair, as well as a conservatory that is also structurally unstable. Both buildings are not considered contributing resources to the National Register listing. Here is the location of the property. The subject property is zoned rural agricultural, contains a historic site. Adjacent properties in the county to the south are also zoned AG8 and contain more portions of the plantation. Properties to the west are within the city of Charleston and zoned conservation in AG8 and are undeveloped. Properties to the north are within the city of North Charleston, zoned agricultural, and are being used as such. Properties to the east across the Ashley River are within the city of North Charleston, zoned R4, and contain single-family dwelling units. The subject parcel is in the AE9, AE10, shaded X, and X flood zones. Here's an aerial view of the property showing the approximate locations of the horse barn and conservatory. Magnolia Plantation and Gardens was listed on the National Register of Historic Places on December 11th of 1972. Areas of significance include commerce, conservation, horticulture, and landscape architecture. These are photos of the horse barn. Here you can see the damage that it has sustained. And these are photos of the conservatory. This is the site plan showing the horse barn proposed for demolition, along with the site plan for the conservatory. The applicant did respond to all of the applicable approval criteria, and as such, staff recommends approval, and we did notice as required. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Any questions for staff from commission members at this time? All right, public comment?
Laura Altman.
Ms. Altman. If you give your name and address, please, ma'am.
Laura Altman, LFA Architecture, 32 Southampton Drive, Charleston. I'm the architect for the project. Emily has been very much in communication with us and has visited the site and has done a great presentation. I'm just here if you have any questions about either of the buildings. Only the horse barn will be replaced, but that will go through the normal site plan review process and come back here with the replacement structure later. The conservatory is not going to be replaced. It is structurally failing and needs to be taken down immediately because it is a life safety issue. Craig Wellman is also here as the Director of Facilities for Magnolia. If you have any questions for either of us, we're happy to answer.
Thank you. I have one question. I understand that the horse barn will be replaced, is that what you were saying? But the conservatory, not so. Would that be just green space, or would that be a plan later on to be made?
It'll be a plan later on. The problem was that the trusses, the building was constructed in the 80s, if I have that right. And the trusses are typical pre-manufactured 2x4 type trusses. The metal plates are delaminating, and when we notice that, we just are trying to get through the process to take it down so it doesn't fall and damage nearby grand trees or pedestrians and employees of Magnolia. There is a big picture, long-term vision planning process going on through Magnolia, but that's a long-term thing, and we'll just take our time and go through all the proper processes whenever buildings are ready to come about.
Right. And we know we'll see you back for that. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Yes,
If anyone
ma'am.
has any other questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is that it? That's all. Okay. All right. This case is now closed to public comment. Before discussion, is there a motion and a second from commission?
I move that we approve the certificate for historic appropriation for the demolition of a horse barn and conservatory.
Second. Okay, there has been a motion and a second for the demolition of the conservatory and the horse barn. I believe at this time we can, if there's no discussion, we'll take the vote.
Hey, Chair Millard,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Smalls Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner,
Aye.
Commissioner Purcell. Ayes have it.
Thank you. This is the final decision of the Historic Preservation Commission. If any person with a substantial interest in the decision of the Historic Preservation Commission chooses to appeal the decision, they may do so to the Circuit Court of Charleston County. Such appeal shall be filed within 30 calendar days after today's date. The next agenda item is HIST-08-23-00093, a request for a certificate of historic appropriateness. Emily, please discuss.
Thank you. So this request is for the demolition of a manufactured housing unit and construction of a new single-family dwelling unit at TMS 583-0000408, which is a property within the Phillips Community Historic District. Here is a list of the CHA applications that we have received since the Phillips Community Historic District was designated in August of 2021. The subject property recently obtained zoning permit approval for the removal of a hazardous grand tree. The applicant has described that they intend to demolish and remove an existing manufactured housing unit and replace that home with a single-family dwelling unit. The existing manufactured housing unit has been damaged by fire and is not able to be repaired. The proposed single-family dwelling unit will be 1,331 square feet, 1 story, and contain 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Here is the location of the property when we're looking at the county overall. Here's a map showing the property's location off of Virginia Rouse Road. The Phillips Community Historic District is a Reconstruction era South Carolina Land Commission platted community, and the district covers roughly 420 acres. The subject property is zoned Special Management S3 and currently contains a manufactured housing unit. Future land use designation is Urban Suburban Cultural Community Protection. Surrounding properties are also zoned S3 and contain either manufactured housing units, a church, or are undeveloped. The subject parcel is in the shaded X and AE8 flood zone. Here's an aerial view of the subject property where you can see the fire-damaged, currently existing mobile home. These are images of the subject property as well. And these are photos of neighboring properties. The Christ Deliverance Church at 2866 Virginia Rouse Road was listed as a contributing resource in the National Register listing for the Phillips community. Here is the proposed site plan. You can see the existing mobile home to be removed, and then the footprint of the proposed single-family home, slightly more centered on the lot. The 46-inch double red oak that is shown within the footprint of the proposed new home has already been permitted for removal due to its hazardous state. These are the front and right elevations, along with the rear and left elevations. And these are some perspectives. And the applicant did respond to all of the approval criteria that were applicable. And because of that, staff recommends approval. We did notice as required. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Emily, for your comprehensive report. Okay, are there any questions for staff before we have public comment? Okay.
Oh, I'll ask one.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
This is going to be the same owner of the property or of the new building?
Is this the same owner that
So-
owned the?
The property recently changed hands, so the ownership won't change at this point as far as I know.
Okay.
New owner.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Michael Rook?
Good afternoon.
I'm Michael Rook, Rook Custom Homes. I applied for the application on behalf of Mr. Schumacher, who acquired the property recently with the intention of building a single-family residence for himself. And so I'm just here to answer any questions if needed.
I have a question. So Mr. Schumacher himself will live in this property?
Correct.
Okay, his primary home, okay.
Yes.
Anyone else? Any other questions?
As a matter of fact, he's already has a mortgage in place right now, so it's ready to go.
It looks like a very nice property, nice home. Okay. Any other questions from commission members? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. No other public comment closed at this point. Before discussion, do we have a motion and a second from commission?
Motion to approve.
Second. There's been a motion and a second to approve. Is there any discussion at the present time? Okay, Marche, take a vote, please.
All right, Chair Millar,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Smalls Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner,
Aye.
Commissioner Purcell.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you, sir. You as well. All right. This is the final decision of the Historic Preservation Commission. Any person with a substantial interest in the decision of the Historic Preservation Commission choosing to appeal this decision may do so at the Circuit Court of Charleston County, and the appeal must be filed within 30 calendar days after today's date. The next agenda is, let me make sure we got all these hists here, right? Is this 94?
Yes.
Okay. HIS-08-23-00094, a request for a certificate of historic appropriateness. Emily, please discuss.
All right, thank you very much. This request is for the retroactive demolition of an accessory structure at TMS 583-00000083, which is a property within the Phillips Community Historic District. Again, here is that table showing all of the certificates of historic appropriateness applications that we have received within the Phillips Community Historic District since it was designated in August of 2021. Recent applications for the subject property include a property line adjustment for the subject parcel that was approved in July of 2021, and a clearing and grubbing violation that was rectified in June of 2023. The property was also subdivided into 3 lots in July of 2023. The applicant has described that they are seeking to address the retroactive demolition of a shed or old barn that was removed during the clearing and grubbing of the property. The shed was no longer functional for the family. Here's the location of the subject property when looking at the county as a whole. And this is the subject property within the Phillips Community Historic District on the corner of Highway 41 and Parker's Island Road. As stated previously, the Phillips community is a very important Reconstruction-era South Carolina Land Commission platted community that covered roughly 420 acres at its adoption. The subject property is zoned Special Management S3. and contains a single-family dwelling unit. Future land use designation is urban, suburban, cultural community protection. Surrounding properties are also zoned S3 and contain either manufactured housing units, single-family dwelling units, or are undeveloped. Subject parcel is in the AE8 and shaded X flood zones. Here's an aerial view of the subject property showing the approximate location of the demolished accessory structure. These are photos of the subject property showing the area of the property where the shed was removed. The existing house, as well as a historic well in the front of the house, were noted as contributing resources in the National Register listing for the Phillips community. And that old well did originally service the Phillips Elementary School. These are photos of neighboring properties. On the right-hand side, you can see the former convenience store building, along with the Phillips Elementary School Foundation that were listed as contributing resources on the property next door at 1749 Highway 41. Here's the site plan that shows the accessory structure that requires a retroactive demolition permit. The applicant did provide responses to all of the applicable approval criteria, and therefore staff does recommend approval. We did send out our notifications as required. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. All right, public comment? Is there any discussion with staff before we move into public comment? Okay. Yep.
Richard Habersham.
Yes, I'm Richard Habersham, 2938 Banner Charles Road. I'm president of the Phillips Community Association. And the building was in bad shape, and Mr. Ford, he's a basket weaver, and he used that building before the weaver's basket and everything, and his family members saying that it was unstable. So they just got him a new shed, something that he can work with. And they ran the same problem I ran into a couple of months ago, because I did the same thing. We just didn't know that he needed a permit, and the building wasn't that big. But the new shed is going to be used as his little business, his sweetgrass basket business. So y'all should approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Mr. Habersham, okay.
I don't have a question, but I'd like to make a comment.
Okay.
And we don't want to stop progress with the sweet grass products being made, so I think we definitely should consider moving on and approving it.
Okay, we have, I think, one more person that would like to speak.
The applicant, Annette Ford.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I am here on behalf of my parents, Elijah and Victoria Ford. I kind of try to work with our president to get information. I grew up in the Phillip community, moved away to the DC area about 30-something years ago, back and forth with my elderly parents. We, at the time, did not know. When I submitted the application for the clearing and the grubbing, I assumed part of the clearing gave us the okay to take down the old barn. That barn had been there. I call it a barn. I think you guys call it accessory dwelling. We used to harvest our animal products in there for our livestock and for our family at the time to support our family in terms of feeding and also the community. So I really wanted to say thank you. And as we move forward, I'm going to make sure I work with Emily or whomever from the county to make sure we are aligning our processes along with the regulations that we need to follow. Thank you, Emily. You've been of such help from afar. I really appreciate your time. Likewise, the time you guys have spent today also allowing me to come before you and speak.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. I have a question. Can you tell us, I might have missed this, but can you tell us the materials or what this will be made out of, or what your shed will be, how it will be constructed?
We purchased my dad a new one so he can continue his business. It's the typical metal, the ones you buy from these places.
Yeah.
And that's what we purchased.
Okay.
It's like a 10 by 10, I believe it is, so he can continue the business.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, I'm just curious on the materials. That's always big on our book, but I appreciate your time. Any other questions by commission members for Ms. Ford?
I just had a question. So this particular request that you submitted today, and thank you for coming forward, is just the request for the retroactive demolition of an accessory structure, not for the building of another one. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, it's just
Okay.
for the retroactive.
Thank you.
Okay, so you're not putting anything on there at this point? You're
Not
just
at this
clearing
point.
up? Okay.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you for that clarification down there as well. Understood. Okay. If there's no other comments or questions for the speaker, I'll ask it to move forward. Before discussion, is there a motion and a second from commission?
I move that we grant the request for the retroactive demolition of an accessory structure.
A second.
No discussion being heard, I'll ask for a vote at this time.
Chair Millar,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Smalls Brown, Commissioner Gardner,
Aye.
Commissioner Purcell.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay. This is the final decision of the Historic Preservation Commission, and again, if any person with a substantial interest in the decision of this commission chooses to appeal the decision, they may do so at the Circuit Court of Charleston County, and such appeal must be filed within 30 calendar days after today's date. And Ms. Ford, I'm just curious, do you have a skill set as well to make the sweetgrass basket? It's very, such,
Mother's mother taught us when we were small. I've gotten away from it, but I think I can still do it. My sister runs a jewelry business, and we come here occasionally to attend the events and sell the jewelry. She doesn't do the sweet baskets, the bigger one, unless there's a request. Sometimes she does the smaller one for weddings and that, but I believe I can probably redo it.
surely can use more people. That is such an important part of our history here in South Carolina. So thank you for your family's contribution.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. All right, I think we have one other item on the agenda. And let's see if I'm not mistaken. All right, the next agenda item is HIST 08-23-00096, a request for a certificate of historic appropriateness. Emily?
Thank you very much. So this request is for the replacement of a legal nonconforming manufactured housing unit at TMS 632-00000011, which is a property within the 10 Mile Community Historic District. So here are a list of all of the certificates of historic appropriateness applications that were received so far within the 10 Mile Community Historic District since it was designated. On the subject property, a boundary survey was approved in August of this year. The applicant seeks to replace an existing legal nonconforming mobile home. The new home will be in the exact same footprint as the existing home. Here's the location of the property when looking at the county overall. Here you can see the property at the corner of Tasia Lane and Highway 17 North within the 10 Mile community. The subject property is zoned 10 Mile Business Service Node within the Highway 17 North Overlay Zoning District and contains a single-family dwelling unit. The future land use designation is 10 Mile Business Service Node. Properties to the west are zoned 10 Mile Business Service Node and contain manufactured housing units or are undeveloped. Property to the south is zoned Rural Residential and contains a manufactured housing unit. The property to the east is zoned PD 105A, Gold Propane, and contains a propane gas business. The properties to the north across the highway are zoned Rural Residential and contain single-family dwelling units. And the subject parcel is in the X flood zone. Here's an aerial view of the subject property. Did just want to note the mobile home that you see in the rear, that is what is seeking to be replaced. It has since been moved off the property, but that's what we're hoping to rectify today. 10 Mile was designated as a Charleston County Historic District in June of 2022. Here are photos of the subject property that show the existing single-family residence and surrounding neighboring properties. Here's a site plan that shows the proposed mobile home replacement. Again, they will be replacing the mobile home in the exact same footprint that was previously there. Here is a provided photo of the new mobile home. And the applicant did respond to all of the approval criteria as applicable, and therefore staff does recommend approval of this request, and we did notice as required. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily, for your comprehensive report. Any discussion for staff at this time from the commission members? Okay, do you have any public comment?
Try to get this right. Christy Burns and Sean Foreman.
Is that right? Okay. If you'll give us your names and your address, please.
Hi, my name's Christy Burns. I'm with Clayton Homes off of Rivers Avenue. Do you want our office address or personal address?
That's
Office.
okay. Just you can give us your office address.
Okay, it's 6581 Rivers Avenue, North Charleston. And our customers are Mrs. Carolyn and Mr. Abraham Wright Jr. Basically, we're just here and we appreciate your time, and we were just hoping to get the approval. We have their new home that we ordered that we've had for a few months now. We closed on their loan at the end of April. And we were just unaware, and the Wrights were also unaware of the June 2022 new designation. So we would have gone about everything a little bit differently if we had known. So we apologize. We did not know that going, from the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Not much to add, just support here. But Sean Furman, same office location. And we're going to give them a brand new, beautiful home in the same place. So, with respecting the character of the community. So,
Well, that's a wonderful thing. And again, it seems to be a common misconception that you don't have to, come forward when it's a designated historic community. There's a little bit more involved, and you're finding these things out, right? Well, we're happy for you, and I would ask if there's any discussion before making a motion today in a second. Could I have, anyone like to make the motion and have a second?
I would like to move that we approve the certificate.
All right, there has been a motion and a second that the certificate be approved. Marche, if you would please take the vote at this time.
Okay, Chair Millar.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Jones. Aye. Commissioner Smalls Brown.
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner.
Aye.
Commissioner Purcell.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Congratulations. Enjoy your new home. This is the final decision of the Historic Preservation Commission. If any person with a substantial interest in this decision of this commission chooses to appeal the decision, they may do so in the Circuit Court of Appeals, Circuit Court of Charleston County. Such an appeal shall be filed within 30 calendar days after today's date. All right, if there is no further business, this meeting of the Charleston County Historic Preservation Commission stands adjourned. The commission will hold its next regularly scheduled meeting on October 18, 2023 in council chambers. Have a great afternoon.
Yeah, we did. I was bad with it.